moving along then with a couple more phases of the development of print media. We moved to the US from Europe and the 18th century, so we fast forward a couple of hundred years, and this is really the period when sort of print takes off in terms of the publication of what we now know as novels, or, if you read a book for pleasure, it's a fictional story. Most of the time it's going to be in this genre classification called a novel. And so this was the period in which this was introduced. Ben Franklin, ubiquitous founding father, was involved in this, bringing this specific work of literature called Pamela to the United States and sort of basically getting the idea to mass produce it and sell it to the public or distribute it to the public as something that would be consumed for pleasure. And we also see another sort of sociocultural tie-in with the development of new forms of mass-produced printing, because Pamela, while it was a story about sort of a woman who was, in her fundamentally subordinate to her husband, it was also sort of a novel that was told from the perspective of this woman and sort of gave her own struggle, weight and importance. And so you can see this as a new form of media also enabling the telling of different kinds of stories that resonate with different people and perhaps make people, the broader public, think a little differently about, different experiences of those around them, in this case of women in a sort of fundamentally patriarchal society. In what we call the modern period of the publishing industry of print media in the United States, actually means we're talking about the 19th century, so not really what you think of when you think of modern, probably. But it's called the modern publishing industry in that the way it exists today is pretty much the same structure. There's a couple of really large publishing houses, and they're listed here, that more or less still dominate the market for print books today. And so just one more kind of sociocultural tie-in then with this too, where you have in this context in the late 19th, early 20th century, this phenomenon of urbanization, mass immigration, and alongside another phase of industrialization of the United States, going from a sort of more agrarian-based economy to an economy based on like things made in factories in big cities. And so with these sort of demographic and sociological shifts comes a new market and a new appetite for printed materials. In this case, sort of part of the story of, immigrants trying to assimilate themselves and like learn English and, read things. And that there were people who had money to spend and wanted to entertain themselves and engage their brains. So literature, at this time was thought of as, a form of popular entertainment for the most part. As well as, kind of like a highbrow sort of, educated thing to, spend your time doing. And so this was another important way in which we see a connection between the sort of sociocultural circumstances and the effect of sort of new developments in the media industries, in this case, print.